All right, I'm sitting on the floor here and going to show you that I'm finally going to complete this project, or at least I hope today. So not sure if you're like me, where you start projects and then months go by, they just lay there and wait to be completed, and then finally the day arrives where you're like, okay, today I'm going to tackle this and finish it. So that is how I work. My hair has grown. I've dyed it a different color. Anyways, here's the project. I am going to complete this blanket hopefully today. So I am pretty comfortable with how I've laid out the pattern. The only thing that kind of matters is these tents here. They're facing that way. So I'm going to make this part the top of the blanket and work my way down. That's just usually how I do it. So I'm going to sew these two together like so. And then later I can snip the edges and that will become the rag quilt. I had different patterns. I believe this is, I should flip the camera here so you can see better. So that is one of the other patterns that I have, and it's on the other side because I'm not a big fan of it, but I had to put that in because I didn't buy enough of the material that you see now. And then for some reason, you might know this better than me, but if I would switch this around so this end would be over there, it looks lighter. So it must have something to do with the way the fabric is brushed or something. I'm not sure. But anyways, pretty happy with this pattern. So I'm excited to get this started, and I'll try to take you along and show you different things. I'm no expert, but I have made quite a few of these and I always enjoy making them. Just trying to make sure that all of the edges are matching up, that the ends are also matching up, because we don't want to have some of the edges to get out of the seams, because then it will all unravel. Here's where I decide how wide I want the edge to be. So usually I do about 1/2 inch. That's usually my go-to. The first part is always the worst. Most nerve-wracking. Okay, so I hit a little bit of a hiccup. Not sure if my sewing machine can't handle this very soft material at the bottom. I have made one other blanket with this soft material. Should know the Minky. No, maybe that's the right name. I'm not sure. Anyways, it was kind of just eating it. So I don't know if there's something wrong with the twine, the thread I mean, or if it's the fabric, but let's try again. I sewed an entire blanket the other day, a few months ago, with a very tight stitch, and it didn't matter what I changed on my machine, it wouldn't let up, and I couldn't figure out what to do. I watched plenty YouTube videos and I couldn't figure it out, so I just kept going. But with this material that I'm doing today, there's just no way that's gonna work. So I decided to go on YouTube one more time, and the first video that I clicked, she had the answer for me, and I'm so glad for YouTube. This happens to me so often where I am stuck at whatever I'm doing, and I go to YouTube and I find the answer, and I'm so grateful for YouTube. But anyways, I will show you just in case you run into this problem, and then hopefully this video is helpful to someone as well. We have tension here. I had it at 2 before. There's a little line here, so I figured it might have to be between 2 and 3. I'll just have to make sure this is up and the needle is not inside when I do this. But now, since I changed it to 0 there, have this one between 3 and 4. The manufacturer shows between 5 and 3. The lady said she has a little bit on this side of 4. Then ever since I had done a buttonhole, that's when the machine had given me problems and I couldn't figure it out. I had this turned before. I can't turn it with my finger. I had to use these pliers. But anyways, so I straightened that out. So I don't know if that's what fixed it. But also on here, I've always had it at 2. So I had both of them matching. And now she said she has it at 3 because this is what widens the stitches, which is the problem that I had. So right here you can tell it's super tight, and then after I changed it, it did this. Oh my. I'm telling you, I am so happy right now. I just got even more excited to finish this blanket. So let's see if this will have fixed the problem. So what you saw me so I was showing you the stitch on this here. This is just a scrap fabric that I was using to try to fix the stitching problem. Now I will take my blanket pieces here and let's see what we got. Hope I'm doing this right. It's working. Praise the Lord. The one I just finished, I had this material at the bottom, and I felt like it was squishing the bubbles. They pop out, but like the fabric, it seems, because it's so soft, it kind of just, I don't know, it looked different. So I'm gonna try something else. I'm gonna try to have the soft side at the top, and then the bottom is just the flannel. Let's see how this goes. This looks much better. I'm actually sewing right in between the bubbles, so it's perfect. I've run into some other problem. Maybe this is the only way that things work for me when I sew, but anyways, I figured I'd share the flaws as well as the things that are going well. I'll show you here. So this end looks good. It's matching up not too bad. And then we come to this end and it is overlapping quite a bit. I'm like, what happened? Like, I'm gonna have to take all of this out and redo it, because here you can see actually this was the side actually that is way off. We cannot have that. If it was matching with this top here, then it would be good. I could just cut the gray stuff off, because that seems to be longer anyways, but that won't work. On this one it will. I can just cut this piece off. The other two, they match. This is just longer. Maybe it stretches when I sew, I'm not sure, but this side matches up pretty good. So I'm happy with that. Just a little bit more work to do the other one, but that's okay. As long as it turns out well once I'm done, then yeah, what's an extra little bit of taking thread out? I don't even know the word right now what that's called. All right, last one. Hopefully this time I can get it right. I've had to do a lot of undoing today and re-sewing. Hopefully this is the last one. Can't believe it's almost finished. Took almost all day. Thought it was only gonna take a couple hours, and then a few interruptions with not things going the way I wanted, and then yeah, it takes longer. But that's okay. At least it's getting done. So it's been a couple days since I last worked on the blanket. Yesterday I was sick and I ran into a problem where it just gives loops by the thread, and I'm not sure why, so I'm gonna have to do some research, but I am ready to jump back into it and see if I can get it done today. I'll show you here what I am talking about. So there's a small loop, and if I go down this whole line, it has those loops everywhere. So I'm gonna have to undo this seam once again. This will probably be the 4th time that I have to undo this seam here, and then find out if it's my thread or if I did something on the setting of the sewing machine or something. But anyways, I'm hopeful that I can figure it out today and get this done. So this moment reminds me of when I try to tell my daughter that us as adults are still going to school every day, even though we don't literally go to a building that has teachers and students. But so I took this out of my machine, and there's a little pin here. It's green right there. That, if I turn that, it controls the tightness of the thread. A YouTube video that I watched that suggested that. I hope that's the answer to my problem here. So I will put this back in my machine. So it sits in here. Hopefully I can remember which way it was in there. Oh dear. Then I can resume back to sewing. Actually, while I have it like this, you can tell this green pin here, right there, that you can turn, and that tightens the thread tension in here. I love to learn new things, and that is also what I tell my daughter. I do love to learn new things, but sometimes it feels like the teaching moment is at an inconvenient time. There, I have it back in here now. I hope that's the right way. Then I need to put this cover back on. If you have this problem with your sewing machine, then hopefully I just gave you a tip that will help you out too. And yeah, it's a pretty easy fix. If I can do it, you can do it. I just have to put that back on and these screws back in where they belong, and then I'll be good to go. And I just got to put these screws in here. All right, pop that back on. Close this up. Good to go. Yes! It worked. I'm so thankful. I love how God gives us the resources and the wisdom to figure stuff out and how everything works out in His timing. A lot of times it's not our timing, and I tend to get frustrated. But when it does work out and it is the right time, then it's really quite enjoyable. The whole blanket is now together. The next step is to find and see if the edges are all straight, and if they aren't, then I will cut them, and then I will do the last step of the sewing where I sew, I don't know, is that probably ½ inch all around the blanket so that I can snip it and it won't flare all the way. That way the thread will hold it there together. This is where I check to see how the edges look. Somehow the fabric kind of stretches. You'll see this one here, it's over on that side and on this side. So I'll just cut it straight on this side here a little bit. Mostly it's the stuff that's on the other side, this super stretchy stuff that I have to cut straight here. And that's the only one on that side. And then this side looks pretty jagged. Yeah. Again, this is just mostly this stretchy stuff that I have to cut straight. And same for this one. Once I cut those off, straighten it out a little bit, then it will look good. So this is the other side. I just finished cutting it. I flipped it, could see it better to how to cut the edges. And looks pretty straight now. One good thing about these rag quilts is that it's okay if the edges aren't completely straight, because once I snip up the edges, you won't be able to tell if it's completely straight or not. So it's kind of mistake proof. Here I'll just quickly show you what I meant by snipping the edges. So I just take my scissors and I point it to very close to the seam here, but make sure that I don't cut the seam, and then I just snip it. And it's probably about 1/4 inch apart. I won't do all of them exactly 1/4 inch, and that's fine. So I did the top there first and then the bottom, just because it's at a place where I've sewn. And then I just go all around the blanket like this until we have snips all around, and I do each seam. So I will take, like, this is sewn together, so I'll just take it like this, hold it, and then I cut all 4 of them at the same time, and I just kind of feel for where the thread is, so I won't cut into it. This is a bit of a process, but I find it somewhat therapeutic, and knowing how pretty it will be at the end once it's done, how it will just flare, that keeps me going. So yeah, I can do this while sitting on the couch watching a show until it's all the way done. You can see it a little bit better on this side. And then once I wash it and dry it, then it flares up even more. There you have it. That's the gist of how I make a rag quilt. If you're interested in more, comment below and I will try to answer your questions. Thanks for watching.